3.
Welcome to 1620 High Noon Podcast with today's host, Ken Himes. Take it away, Ken.
It's Ken Himes, the sports guy that's not shy. I got Robin Unger on the computer over there, producing at the back. We got our co-host, Kit Warren, who's here to talk about these many, many subjects. And we got some of the most exciting people on the planet here today. They are working in film. They are working around the world. They're bicycling across Canada. They're doing all kinds of amazing things, and they brought amazing plant-based medicine to our health, sex, and longevity show here on Himes Hotshots at 1620 Blanchard. And we're going to start off the show, and we're going to talk to guys, and we're going to go a little dark here, but we're going to bring you right back, and we're going to talk about the positive experience that all these gentlemen bring to the room today. Go ahead and let's figure this out first. We've got the Gord Michael's here. He's going to kick off the show, and let's welcome to the show, guys, each and every one of you. Thank you. All the way from Vancouver. Troy Francis in the back watching the show. It's going to be a great show, guys. We're going to save some lives today.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for...
On the mic, please.
Mike?
Grab that microphone.
Mike,
check. You guys have it right beside you there.
Oh, here we go.
There we go.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, there's so many things I could talk about, but it'd take probably 10 hours to talk about it. You know, I've been to 38 countries. I'm 67 years old this year. I've just been diagnosed with prostate cancer. But there's no problem. I know it's just, right at the beginning, so I'll beat it. And
that's a good attitude. Not many people have that attitude.
Exactly.
When they
I have
first
no problem.
hear those bad news. So
This man here saved my life. I was wired on methadone and heroin for 32 years, and he came into my life thanks to Kyle, my most awesome nephew in the whole wide world.
Kyle Michaels.
Well, Gordon, I'm happy you're here today, and it's a beautiful sunny day in Victoria. So,
but I've got a lot of good stories. I'm a pretty wise guy, and I've been through everything. Being an abalone diver for 8 years, from owning property, from being an auctioneer, from traveling to all around the world. I've been through some shit. Military for a year and a half as a photographer, and I traveled all the way to India taking photographs.
What story would you think that you want to start with that would help your other men that are looking up to a leader like yourself?
Well, I think the finale would be the Germany military. That would be that'd be fall on the floor and just whoa.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to get into it.
Okay. All right.
Because it's so mind-blowing. It's just like, it just blow your mind.
All right.
What happened to me.
Okay, we got 90 minutes here. 90 minutes to blow.
Everybody's got to keep watching.
Yeah.
There's 10 segments, whatever. This is great what we're doing. It's exactly what I need in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, let it out.
Let it out.
Yeah.
We all got to let it out.
Yeah.
I mean, I got stories. And
What's the story that you could tell? I know there's some deep stories rooted in the...
Well, the addiction.
Okay.
I troubled my life all throughout my life since I was 13 with addiction. And it was turmoil. It was hell, trying to please the family and it was tough. But Kyle took a stand and said, I'm going to help my uncle. And he said, I'll do anything you want to heal you. And he come up with the Iboga. And I experienced the Iboga experience, which is a whole story of its own.
The iboga is by the way, an African plant, and it has a healing properties like ayahuasca, maybe like mushrooms. But they're going to get more into that a little later, and how this plant helped save many lives. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's an amazing plant, and I don't understand why it's not used today in addiction, because it completely saved my life. After 32 years of addiction, and Kyle told me to try this iboga, I just thought it was bullshit. I thought, yeah, I'll do it for you. $28,000 later.
Whoa, because you had to go down to where the Iboga was.
Mark took it from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
he's now a shaman. He's a qualified shaman, which I don't know if anybody know what that really means.
Well,
Yes.
But that's the most awesome thing in the world, to become a shaman.
Just got back from South America.
Yeah.
Seen it personally. Yeah, but
Let's
please.
have a fucking round for Mark here.
Okay, right on. We got to get
awesome guy in the world, I'll tell you.
Yeah, we're not going to let you go. We're going to hear about a Canadian shaman here in a little bit, but please carry on.
Yeah. Anyways, the experience I went through was just hell and back. For 7 days, stuck on Pender Island in this apartment.
Wasn't it Bowen Island, Gordon?
Bowen Island.
Bowen Island, yeah, right off of Horseshoe Bay. Yeah.
And
I was in Montreal. Okay.
yeah, you were in Montreal.
I was on my way to Kenya, Africa, and I'd set up this deal for you on my way out of town.
Yeah.
And I remember
Well organized.
You were staying at the hotel Bidwell Hotel in West End, Vancouver, and you'd come over from Victoria, right?
Yeah.
And
doing dope all the way.
we were in your hotel room, and I was sitting with you. I tried to give you some weed, and I had a bit of whiskey. And we were sitting there sipping whiskey, and I was trying to wait till you would go to sleep so that I could go home and get some sleep myself.
I remember that.
And you said to me, Kyle, would you just drive me downtown one more time? I'm going in tomorrow. And I said, no, Uncle, that's not what this is about. And we had about 3 or 4 more whiskeys before you fell asleep that night. And as soon as you were snoring, I went home.
Yeah.
Because I knew you were safe.
Yeah, the love you gave me was absolutely phenomenal. Like, you wouldn't give up, and it was pretty awesome. Anyways, I want to pass the mic right now.
Okay.
Just a quick question before you go, though. How long from years and years of this addiction, and then you tried the plant in with, was it minutes, days, where you had the sudden deep realization
It was
that...
the next day.
Next day?
After throwing up 10 times at night, they gave me 10 different doses of the Aboga.
You start over on that comment, please.
10 every 3 hours, wasn't it, Mark?
Yeah, more probably.
Over 30 hours.
Yeah.
They give me a dose, and I vomit right away. But then what my body went through,
Yes.
and what I saw, it cleansing, a complete cleansing of your mind, your troubles, your what's ever going on inside your body. It seems to just cleanse it, and I believe 100% it works, because the next day I had no withdrawal, and I was a 32-year heroin addict.
Whoa.
And I had a prescription in my hand. I could have went and cashed in, but I didn't. For methadone
Do
downstairs.
you think that the heroin would build an ecosystem that then thrived off that and told your mind that it needed it to survive, and then the other plant material vomited up those ecosystems of bacteria or part of you?
Exactly, yeah.
Cool.
It's many things that are involved, like the cleansing of the brain, and I can't put it in words.
It's a vibrational clarity, and it's a plant has a measurable effect in a vibration to your system.
The hallucinations I saw were the most powerful I've ever seen in my life, and I've done a lot of LSD, not a lot, half a dozen times.
Yeah.
And what that trip took me through about myself was unexplainable, but I know what it did to me. It made me see the things that I needed to do, and today I'm a better man for it.
Very cool.
Because I would have been dead or in the gutter or in jail.
Yeah.
And because of Mark introducing me.
Good support. Good support.
That's an excellent story. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Over here now, we're going to hand the microphone over to our former professional hockey player, rode all the way across Canada, 63 days to talk about things that most of us hide from other people. He put it all on the line. Naked as a jaybird, said it all, talked to CBC, talked to all the stations about shit he was going through that every one of us can relate to at some point, and how he has managed to power through this. This is Ryan Phillips.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for having me. Eternally grateful, and being here representing Crowbar City out of Vancouver. Being here in Victoria actually it means a lot for me. As my friend and I came in here last night, because this is where I did take off on my cross Canada tour to raise awareness for mental health. And I didn't sleep for 3 days before the ride. It's the second biggest country in the world. So there was a lot of, definiteness of purpose behind that. Obviously, mental health is at the leading edge of talk right now. It's one of the reasons why you're here. I think it's one of the reasons why we're all here, really, and why I'm so very passionate about this cause. I have a daughter who's 20. She's addicted to methamphetamines. She's been in and out of the psych ward now about 13 times. What what I do in my life is in a humble way. I say, I've been deemed a humanitarian with certain things in life, but I hate that word. I think it should just be called good human. And I think we should all be that person.
Excellent.
And just be our true self, which
Right
I think
on.
you found out on that plant medicine. And I can go into the bike ride in a few minutes here, but what I really want to go in and intensify into this conversation, because it's about your iboga. Mark, we don't know each other quite well yet, but I heard about your wonderful film that's dosed, and is what I did the other day, which is called the Hero's Dose with psilocybin mushrooms. It was the third time that I did that. I think they should call it the Courage Dose, for crying out loud. I hold a lot of trauma in my life that stems back to childhood, lack of love, not on purpose. My parents did the best they could to bring me up in a wonderful environment, and everything on the outside would look absolutely amazing. I was playing all these sports. I had aspirations of becoming a professional hockey player, etc., etc. I'm talking fast because there's a lot of content and there's a lot of people that have to talk here, and my story isn't
Not all day. We want to slow it down.
Okay,
take
so
your
I'm
time.
gonna
I
slow
want to
it-
hear your story.
All right.
I want to.
So I'm going to make my story heard then. Because
Excellent,
we're all
excellent.
important and we're all love, and that's what I love about this, is that we can all share. That's what it's all about, from the goddamn heart.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm about. That's why I rode across Canada. And what I said, just coming in last night, I'm kind of bouncing back and forth here, because the emotions was, I started off at that Terry Fox Pavilion, and that it gave me this like energy that just like divinely through right through my heart, this infinite source of vibratory love that I knew that I was doing something much bigger than me. I was doing it for the nation. I was doing it for the world. It was just something, just getting outside of self, and then self-discovery, became the journey along the way, but also taking a lot of the energy on of the people along the way that were suffering so much with mental health issues that I was riding for, and battling myself with, depression, PTSD. I believe the root cause of most mental illness, society illness, so to speak. Kind of been joking about that lately, but seems like that's kind of what a lot of it is just trauma. It's the trauma. We're born into this world. That's a traumatic experience already, getting born. So right off the bat, and in the beginning of our physical experience, everything's recorded in our subconscious mind. So our subconscious mind is like a filing bank. Every single sense impression is actually recorded into your subconscious faculties. So, when emotional shit is thrown at you, nonstop, you're taking that on, and it's like, it's hurt, it's pain, and it's like compound interest. It keeps piling up, keeps piling up, keeps piling it up. So, I left home at a young age, with all the big dreams, and and next thing you know, the hockey culture, hazing, abuse from coaches, stuff that no child should ever see. And this isn't about victimization. This is about awareness. And I that's why I'm so passionate about mental health awareness, because it stems from the people being kind to each other, showing the compassion, showing the love, because that's who we really are. And it's kind of, I believe that everything happens for a reason, synchronistically, and these plant medicines actually kind of help you to that the discovery of self, and the shedding of that ego that holds us back too, because I realized that even though I've done certain things in my life, I've never been able to take a compliment. It all stems from these traumas. And when I did this hero's journey the other night, 15 grams of mushrooms is a lot. That's a lot to ingest. But I got a lot of fucking trauma, so I got to deal with that shit. And I was lucky I was in the right environment, that I had brothers there that held my hand and was like, go deep in your fears and face them and nail them. Because I had threats on my life. Because after hockey, I got highly involved in the marijuana industry. I was it's, I humbly say this, there's, I have my life story will be out on National Geographic on February 12th on Locked Up Abroad. I was an international weed smuggler for, a long time in my life. I was doing, millions and millions and millions of dollars of business, at some points in my life, weekly. It was at a very, very high level. I went to prison for over 500 days, didn't see the light of day, got out, and, there's been a lot, I've taken all this on from the pressures that, were put on in childhood, that we all go through, that we all experience. Yeah. And, so
you've broken them down. And what was the one that
it was
gave you the best relief?
Well, I went to hell and back, really. To ingest that much, obviously, my intent. I believe that the intention that we put into the plant is one thing, but I think the plant actually the plant medicine knows what you need. And what it needed for me that evening was to make peace, really, truly shut the door on my past that's been holding me back, to propel me forward in my future, to be able to give me more opportunity to give back, and to understand that my purpose is to, number one, love myself, love my true self, and not let my old story control my present vibration.
Have you always communicated this well? Because I find that you're expressing these things, and maybe some of the medicines have helped you with that.
Well, look,
I'm still on the medicine. This is 2 nights ago.
I microdosed today. I microdosed today. I took a couple hoots of weed. Look, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. In this collective consciousness, I believe that it's our duty to do good for each other, so we can raise the vibration of the planet, so we can make more sustainable resources, so the next generations can come up and be fucking healthy. That's what I give a fuck about. Yeah, straight up, from the heart. Straight up. Listen. I'm being serious about this, but I do have a sense of humor too. I could tell you about one of the times I ended up in the hospital going across Canada when some car ran me off the road, and I was going about 30 down going into Belleville, and I broke my collarbone, and I hit the tip of downstairs down here, and I'm buckled on the side of the road, and people are driving by, and they see this whack job that just did about 100 clicks that day. I'm sweating, just feeling tired, and I didn't even want to look. I was just like, should I take a look? For crying! Are you gotta be kidding me? I had an interview in about 10 minutes on a radio show. My camera guy's 3 kilometers up at Tim Hortons, and I'm like, I gotta get to this fucking interview. I got a broken collarbone and a bad tip, and next thing I know, I'm like on the cycle. I'm like 7 inches up over the bicycle seat. Now I make it to Tim Hortons. I'm like, dude, I had a bad accident. I had a fucking bad accident. He's like, what happened? I'm like, over here, there's all these bikers in the parking lot and shit like that. They're like, dude, I heard you're riding across Canada. I'm like, something really fucking bad happened to me right now. I think you need to go to emergency. Yeah. So I wrote down to emergency, and they got me right in. And anyways,
there's your chance, Robin, to insert a penis joke.
Ooh, this is bringing back the emotions right now, baby.
That's
and yeah, the doctor jumped back when he saw it, and I was like, you think it's going to be okay? Anyways, I wore 2 pairs of underwear and an extra pair of spandex, and I rocked it the next day and did like 180 clicks.
Next day.
180 clicks.
Why? Your heart pushed you through.
For the people of my fucking country, because I love this country and I love the people. Yeah, and I did it with this. The other night when I did this Heroes Journey, I saw millions of Buddhas. I was able to release all these traumas. I could literally feel the neurotransmitters in my brain reconnecting and recalibrating with each other, and I was able to make. I felt like an infinite stream of love was literally pouring through my vibratory energy, and I was able to connect to higher people's selves, like all over I just knew that I was at one with everything. That literally we can create from formless substance, and just we can, as a collective, co-creation at its best. Yeah. We can help heal each other. We can help heal the planet through plant medicine, nature. That's where we come from.
Well done.
So, Any questions?
Yeah, you talked about something really big there, and you mentioned it earlier, so let's go back to that. All of this comes back to truth in yourself.
Truth.
You can be a
Right.
fucking
Yeah.
asshole at work, and you can be this guy all your life, and then suddenly you have the self, almost like a religious hippie discovery that we used to talk about in the 60s and 70s, and change completely to a good guy and still be tough. Warren here, tough as nails, but most kindest guy I've ever met. Helped me get off the booze and cigarettes, and the staff here at 1620.
Wonderful. I'm a non-drinker, and so what I believe it does, it's like, listen, we're feeling beings. We're feeling beings. We're creatures of habit. We all have this. There's thousands of addictions out there, you know, like, I mean, it's like the phone, the cigarettes is one thing, but there's all kinds of other addictions too. Being addicted to your old story, that loop, that bear trap that we get in, that bullshit. All we have is the eternal now, nowness. Right now is our story, where we create our story, is in the infinite now. So it kind of like gets you into that vortex of energy where you see, like, you
In the moment.
being in the present moment, but being able to see a little bit of yourself in everybody,
Right on.
you know, and start to be able to see the love and then see the love within yourself, because I couldn't look in the mirror for about 2.5, 3 years. I couldn't look in the mirror. I hated myself. I had all these millions. I had all the toys. I gave it all away. Then I thought that, you know, riding across Cambodia to help eradicate human trafficking and child sex slavery would make me happy. And it did. And we did a film about it, but I never gave myself credit. You know, I was just masking all these intensified, you know, life experiences.
It was external rather than internal.
Well,
Once
it was
you went
from the love of my heart, but
Yeah.
it didn't truly, like, it traumatized me, because I saw, like, all these girls that had been, you know, really treated on a very, well, they were getting, who's kidding who? Human trafficking and child sex slavery. Yeah. It's huge. It's huge. And after being in the trenches with that and hauling kids out and helping on over in Cambodia and whatnot, I was very blessed to do a TED Talks on that experience, and I was very blessed to do a TED Talks on mental health after I did the bike ride over in Malaysia.
Very cool.
Something pouring through me. That's infinite spirit that I saw it the other day when I met my maker after dying and then coming back to death on a mega dose of psilocybin.
And that mega dose connected your senses. It went through your body and your ecosystem of your micro.
Yeah, and
rather than your external of what you were focused on, giving your heart to everything else, fixing everything. When you came back to the mushrooms and now got internal, that is the fix of our own ecosystems in this that gives us the ability to think about everybody.
Yes, it changes the way that you think. In the beginning, we changed the way we look at life. Then life will
perception.
Our perception changes. And look, it doesn't mean everything. Life's not easy as it is, you know. But just like the present moment is truly a gift, and that's what it brings you back to. And people, you know, I've been in and out of AA for 15 plus years. I've done more drugs than I've done. Listen, it's not a bragging contest here, but I put a lot of shit in my system.
Yes.
Pills. I never thought I would ever have to take pills for anxiety.
Yeah.
But I went through some times where, you know, with struggles, and all these traumas came back.
Yeah.
And I went and saw a psychiatrist, and he told me I was bipolar. He goes, 12 minutes to hearing my story, and I'm like, I just lost all this, 2 friends, yada yada, and then he tries to shove lithium down my throat, which is like battery acid. You kidding me? And I'm not like I don't want to like say, listen, some people don't need antidepressants, but I'm actually I am saying that there's a good chance that you can get off the antidepressants and not feed into big pharma and feed into the nature's way, where you've had a profound experience, and so has so many other people. You know, to realize that you don't need to.
Well done.
You don't need to die. That shit was killing me. Yep. It was killing me. It was killing my soul. It made me lose friends. It made me lose
about opioids and getting off
relationship
opioids.
with self. You know, true self.
Yes.
And you know, I'm no.
In the moment.
Yes. So I really
said.
Love that. And the muscle car drives by and shows that. in the moment,
A dodge.
want to get a better self,
And
want to show others a better version, and then uplift everybody.
And what we're doing right now is a process of helping each other.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I highly recommend it. I don't know if there's any other questions. I just
Highly recommend it, but in a safe environment with good people around you.
yeah, I also
Not at a Slayer concert or you're in a mosh pit. And
I actually
I did Metallica once. And
this is the first time I've been on camera post being able to talk about the ride going across Canada, and everybody was looking at me like I was, it was highly publicized. I didn't make a big public stink about it because I was doing it more for. I was like, my intention was to do it for the people, but I didn't realize it was going to attract CBC and Global and the major news outlets, which I think you do need for awareness. Media is obviously the key component. But like at the end of the day, this is the first time I've kind of been able to talk about the ride, the emotions. This is the first time in front of people. So lots come up. Being in Victoria and trying to breathe through even this, it's like, because I took on a lot of the energy of the people going across the country, all the parents that were coming up to me, Tim Hortons got behind and was like, so that people would know that I was coming to the next town and doing interviews at, say, CBC, whatever. It didn't matter. It was like, but I had, parents crying on my shoulders, and like, I was holding them and hugging them and taking on all their energy, and like, my son took his life, or this and this and da-da-da, all the suicides, all this stuff, whatever, and then all of a sudden when I get back, like almost synchronistically, I got introduced to the plant medicine, and it's just like, now it's like all the dots are kind of connecting, so like, and I just believe like so much because I've been on the chemical side, and it really messed my life up bad. But now, like, what I'm with doing the microdosing of the psilocybin and the hero's journey, really, like, I mean, I haven't done iboga, but it sounds very, very similar. I mean, I was purging. It was, I think we all have our own unique experience that brings us back home,
definitely.
and then allows us to know that now we're just in the journey home.
Yeah.
And now it's all about giving.
In the moment.
Yeah. So, but. That's the kind of I guess I don't know if there's
That's going to open up the door for a lot of people to do the same, and by doing that and showing that, taking the heart to release your fears of all that, you're going to have others that see that, and then brings up everybody else by that.
One of the things it did was very profound, is that because I really started to hate myself for a long time. I really hated who I was. I couldn't look in the mirror. I actually couldn't look in the mirror and like the person that I saw, because I felt that like I reached like high levels of achievement, so to speak, at a very young age, and then I was like, now what? Whatever. Just like you're just. But okay.
Yeah, right on.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah.
You're awesome. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. When I saw this, when I saw the light the other night, I actually looked inside. I looked at my eyes. My friends are out there waiting for me. They're just looking at me like it's just like they're watching the change happen. The pain. But I loved what I saw in the mirror. I looked at my eyes and I was just like, I'm like, wow, you're beautiful, man. Like you're and you can do anything. Like you rode across the fucking country. I never even gave myself credit for that. I never did it. I never gave myself credit for being on National Geographic. Why would they want my story? But like, I guess my fucking story means something. And all our stories mean something. Yes. And the more we connect together as one with nature, the more healing will just keep going, and have fun with it, and rise up together. That's the fucking way.
Wow.
Ryan Phillips, you're great former Regina Pat.
Sorry about the swearing, by the way, but that just comes out sometimes. Blame that on Tony Robbins.
We're on this is the Truth Podcast. Anyways, played for the Regina Pats, the Kelowna Rockets, and
Kelowna Rockets. I'm old school, buddy.
Yeah. And tough as nails, and shedding everything here today to help each and every one of us. Thank you so much.
One more thank you. I just want to say thank you to the nation of Canada Canada for embracing me. The ones that knew, the ones that, the fall, the drop, whatever, all the military. Canada, you have been so good to me, and this is it. Just like my love pours and dies for you, baby.
Hallelujah.
Well done. Well said.
Beautiful.
Well said, man.
And I think that the stigma of holding in tears for us strong men is now releasing those vibrations of trauma through the water molecules of the ducts of our eyes.
I love how you talk about vibration, because thought is vibration moving at an inconceivably high rate of vibration. So that's how we literally transmute thoughts into physical reality.
Yeah, man.
You know?
Love it.
Yeah.
Ryan, if your old self, the self-destructing person of the past, was sitting in the room right now, and you had 20 seconds to straighten his fucking life out to who you are today, what would you tell that person in 20 seconds?
To straighten her out, first of all,
your doppelganger.
Make the decision to change for the better. Talk to somebody. Make a phone call. Face your fear. False evidence appearing right. It's bullshit. Walk through it. People will get you through it. The right people will appear if you desire it. You just gotta reach out.
Here, here.
Right
Awesome.
on,
Here, here.
I did. I reached out for help.
Do you think police officers and politicians should get on the bandwagon and maybe try a little themselves?
Yeah.
Because they obviously need help for PTSD and stuff.
People in
not
general.
truthful.
We're all people. We all have hearts. We all have brains. We're all human. We all have a physiology, a system, personalities. We're all what? We all need a hand up. We all need to rise up together. So if we can do it the best way possible, whatever works for them, then we find that way. We find systems and we implement them as a collective consciousness, and that's how we rise up together, and then the vibratory energy of the planet rises up together as well.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Well said.
Well said.
Who else wants that microphone? We got a lot of collective
Pass it
great
to Mark.
guests here.
Pass it to Mark.
Mark's up.
Yeah, he's closest.
Well done, sir. Fantastic.
Our local,
That was hard to do. I saw that. It was hard to do.
ladies and gentlemen, let's introduce Mark here, who is our local Canadian shaman.
Hold on, let me have a.
We
let
all
me
have
chug back
our,
some
we
stuff.
all have our position. Yeah.
Get over here, buddy. Oh, God. Nice to meet you. Thanks for your work.
Yep.
Now give her shit.
Sounds like you should be doing this too.
A lot of heart to heart, a lot of hugging here. Real men talking about real problems.
Yeah.
Shedding the fear
Oh,
of
my God.
non-truth.
My name is Mark Howard. I started a business called Iboga Soul in 2014, and I think it was probably 2011. I was 37. I grew up in Hamilton, Ontario. Pretty rough place. All North Ender, uncles, dads, steel town. Lots of alcohol.
Yeah.
Christmas, Easter, Friday, Monday, Tuesday. And it was just kind of my thing, and then it led into cocaine at a young age. Lots of alcohol, and then pretty much got really hurt once, then went back to university and challenged the backdoor the system in my university. I was in humanities, but I wanted to know what they were trying to pull over me that I didn't know, which was science. So I backdoored the program and got accepted into the Faculty of Science at McMaster University. Spent 2 years there. Did that. Once I got accepted, I left, and then came back out here, and then partied. Basically, just lived life, and got to go pregnant. So I was just about to tell her that I didn't think it was good that we were together. It just started it was only about 2-3 weeks into it, sort of a month into it, and but instead of that phone call talking about that, it was telling me that she was pregnant and she didn't want to have an abortion. And I was like, okay, I agree with that. That's fine. But she wanted to have adoption. But I said, that's not going to happen. Is it no matter what state I'm in, nothing's going to take me away from this responsibility.
Good man.
Right?
Stepping up.
So I started going to a bit of counseling and stuff like that to try and derail the situation, but it was getting worse, actually. It was kind of escalating because of I think the dynamics of the whole thing. And I went to Start Smart programs and stuff where counselors are talking to me, which has never really worked for me. Now I know it's because I wasn't really receptive. so I got about like 6 months in, and I went to lunch to meet Kyle in Squamish, British Columbia. I went to the bar, and we were having lunch, and I was drinking beer, and just kind of explained to you, I think that this is pretty, because I don't want to say, I'm not going to bash my baby's mother, because she's done a great job. So just at that particular time, I wasn't in a good fucking place at all. And, so obviously...
The woman with the baby just walked by, Mark. That was a great moment right there.
Yeah, and I think what I really knew without, to be honest, is that I didn't want to bring my kid up into a world that I kind of got brought up into. And it's not saying a bad thing, because my dad and parents got me to where I am, and I'm much appreciative of it. I've been through it. It's just not... But still, it wasn't the sort of... I didn't have the best coping skills.
I think you could give yourself the credit, but what I remember you telling me when we were shooting pool that day at the House Sound Brewery is that Laura, the mother of your first son, had told you that you would never know your son unless you cleaned up your life. And that's what you told me in the moment. I remember it quite clearly.
Yeah, definitely I could see her saying something like that.
Hi, Laura.
Yeah.
It's funny how the women are our version of self from a different perspective, and they give you the switch. They're switching you.
She, believe me, spirit. Like, that's why I'm sticking to this path, because I know that certain things I've been shown. I didn't go to jail. I got blessed with some other things in a different way that are, challenging in their own. But, whatever situation we get involved, if you want to turn it around, you can. So, anyway, sitting there is a pretty special moment for me, and probably if it was benefited Gord's life, which I know it did help with, and a lot of people now, because it's shit starting to get real. And so Kyle said to me, "Have you ever heard of ibogaine or iboga?"
I didn't say that.
You
no.
Tell me what you said.
I didn't know about ibogaine at that point, Mark, and I still don't want to know about it. I think that anytime you take a plant and turn it into a white powder, you've actually done something wrong. These plants come with additional compounds and molecules which enhance the spirit of the plant. And when you try to refine it down into a powder, you've kind of removed something.
You've changed.
You've refined it. So I didn't know about ibogaine at that point, but what I remember is telling you that I had met somebody that told me about iboga.
Right.
And then I mentioned to you that I'd learned about this plant called iboga, right?
So how does Kyle? You keep being the guy that people are going to for help and a spiritual advisor. You recognize this now, that your knowledge. We'll get into that a little bit, but it seems like we're going back to Kyle as a coach.
What's important? Just I think the center pin over here. He just kind of he brought it up to me, but when he said iboga to me at that table that day.
Yep.
All right, automatically, I love the way you describe things. So the vibrations went in and these rattled around my fucking sick mind, but somehow there was some sort of diamond lights that were sort of interesting. And all of a sudden I get goosebumps now. I went home, and I don't even think I thought about cocaine on the way home. So that was interesting. And I started...
That the thing that craved that, or the energy or vibration inside you that was craving these other things, the iboga maybe released them or got rid of them.
My mind was then, my soul was able to connect through my mind. It was calm enough. My mind, with good thinking, was able to focus on the goal I wanted. Cool. And that enabled my soul to get into action, law of attraction.
Perfect.
And what I saw that day, Mark, was that you wanted to be a father.
Yeah, not just that day, but
you
sure.
were, well, I hadn't seen you in a while,
right.
Because, your vibration prior to ingesting iboga was quite sporadic, I might add. I
wanted to be a good person.
Your nickname was Sparky.
Right.
You were like a spark flying out of a fire at all times, and you're always soulful, though. You always had.
I think I didn't just want to be a good father. I wanted to be a good person.
I think just for the viewing audience, we should try to clarify a little bit further about what we mean between the difference of iboga and ibogaine.
Okay,
and so Kit actually has some coca leaves on his desk here. Yep. And these are coca leaves from South America. And this is a traditional medicine that's eaten in the Andes for thousands of years. and people use it to give themselves energy to work at high altitudes.
Elevation
or
sickness,
to
yes.
do farming all day. You're digging in the dirt. You need energy.
Yep.
So when you take cocaine and you refine it into a powder, it's cocaine. But before that, it was coca. It's a leaf. It's a plant. And so the same thing you can do with iboga. You turned it into ibogaine, and it's a single molecule element. And
Are those patented? Or corporations owning those names?
well, and that's
too?
the problem with it, because these corporations, they want to talk about owning something. They want to own something that they can then patent and package and sell to somebody, right? But nature doesn't want to be owned, right? So in the pharmaceutical industry, they refer to API, which is an approved pharmaceutical input, right? Or ingredient. Approved pharmaceutical ingredient is API. So these days, I'm trying to tell people about ANI, which is as nature intended, right?
Terpenes and the full spectrum of what is in the ecosystem. So you take a fern out of the forest and you got one fern, but you need the trees, the plants, and the whole thing to run properly. And it's kind of like that. That's how I see nature as intended.
An ecosystem, right? And so we're sitting there shooting pool, right? And,
Wait, let's go back to the clarify because
here's my buddy Mark, that I've
1
known
minute.
for 10 years.
hold
right?
on a second.
You want to go back to where?
I want to go back because
Go back where? Where are we going?
I'll tell you, because iboga has like the whole family in it of alkaloids. Alkaloids are what they think are responsible for the medicinal properties of iboga. We can extract iboga root bark and get all the alkaloids. It's called TA. So we use that extraction. That would be like you take one big scoop of root bark, right? But if you make an extract, it's 10 times stronger, so you can use that and still get the full effects of the medicine.
Mark, I'm not a fan of TA, right?
That's okay. Because
You
this
know
is
why?
important though for people to understand.
You're trying to feed me a banana at the end of Squamish Valley, and I really had to take a shit, right? And you're walking me down the hallway, and there's a red light, and the whole thing's going.
Sounds normal.
And I'm in the bathroom, and the light's moving around, and I'm trying to take a shit, and you're talking to me, Kyle, are you okay? Kyle, are you okay? And I'm like, dude, can you please leave me fucking alone for a minute?
You're
But that
special.
was
You're a
TA.
special
That's-
case.
That total. I like the raw root bark better. The pure
understand.
iboga as nature intended. We
I
don't
know.
need to change anything.
I know. I
you
need to explain this to people because this is revolutionary stuff. This is so explosive right now. You need to understand where I'm coming from. So with addictions, anyways, you have the TA, which is the total alkaloids. One of those alkaloids. So if you go to a family reunion, you see everybody. Yeah, everybody's there. You know what I mean? You can share the experiences. Ibogaine is one alkaloid that he's talking about. It's called ibogaine. So it's the one alkaloid within those 14, say, that they find is extremely beneficial for interrupting addictions. So. And it also using the full medicine it takes a really big load off the supply right now. So you can actually make ibogaine synthetically out of another plant entirely. So what it's super highly beneficial for is going into a medical setting and treating with an acute withdrawal over like 10 days, get them cleaned up. When they come to me and I use the full spectrum medicine, right? Then we're able to access, like, if you listen to the wisdom, it wasn't the plant, it wasn't mushrooms talking. It wasn't like it wasn't the mushrooms that you're hearing 2-3 days later. It's you're hearing Ryan. The mushrooms has just cleared it away, all the stuff, and connected it more to him. You're hearing him.
It's a mycorrhizal fungi in the forest. Tells the deer, takes the vitamin C 5 miles up the mountain, feeds the tree. So now he's connecting his senses and,
He's in the
getting
plant.
back himself.
Well, that's exactly what happened. So, like the next day, it's so that's like bang on, absolutely bang on. It got Ryan back to what Ryan was before any of the trauma ever happened, where I was able to kind of put that old trauma and just kind of kick it to the bucket. And because I was able to make peace with my mom, I was able to make peace with my dad, and like I've not wanted to stop actually just saying how proud I am of you, Dad, how proud, like I love you, Mom, like I just want to hug her and just give her my love. And I realized that like the issues that always went on with my family and stuff, really it wasn't their fault, it wasn't my fault, it just happened that way. and being able to make peace with that is like something that like I've been yearning for literally since things started going in a kind of negative way in my mind, which I made negative. So it was my story that I had to own it, then I had to release it, and then I had to create a new story. And then the new story is going to be the way I keep creating it, because we create our own reality. Boom.
That's right.
So
In the moment.
In the moment.
did you one more thing? Kyle,
Let's get
before
back. I think I see where you're going with that, Mark. I don't want to discredit the efficacy of ibogaine as an element that can be used in clinical trials and try to convince the overseers of our society that maybe something should be used in that isn't being considered today. And as well, the total alkaloids is a more compact form of maybe transporting medicine and whatnot. I just sort of wanted to make sure that everyone knew the difference between the root, the potion, and the powder, so to speak.
Good, yeah.
You know?
Thank you,
that's
Phil.
good. It's a hard topic to, especially when we're so new into this right now. Like I'm still on my very first time even hearing about it.
Yeah, thank you very much for all of that, guys. By the way, how does Mark Howard from Steel City, with all these issues and stuff, end up becoming a shaman and studying Central Africa and the healing and the traditions that have been around for thousands of years? How did you get to this place today?
Can I comment? Can
Please.
I comment on that?
Please.
So here we are in House Sound Brewery in Squamish, BC. You know, former mill town. You know, it's a bit of a dump, bit of a rough town as well back in the day, right? But it's becoming hamlet of Vancouver today. So this is where Mark and I met that fateful afternoon to talk about iboga, and I remember going home and doing some research to find the website that the girl had told me about, the previous summer. And at that time, it was the Iboga Therapy House. And they were running on the Sunshine Coast.
That's right.
It was ibogatherapyhouse.com. And that facility was actually sponsored by Mark Emery. And he's a colorful character of the cannabis activist movement, of course.
Prince of Pot.
The Prince of Pot. And so one story that I'd like to introduce to this conversation is that a lot of the teachings of the healings of how to deal with addiction in a natural way is being sponsored and promoted by people from the cannabis community. And so you have the downtown east side, people are giving away cannabis oil, they're giving away cannabis gummies to try to help interrupt the addiction of people. Because if you can give them a 5-minute break where they might look in the mirror and give themselves a chance that, hey, maybe today I'm going to try something different.
Mark,
Because
yeah.
you said you're reborn on your mushroom trip. You died and reborn, but every day we wake up, we're reborn, and we have a chance to decide that morning who are we going to be today.
That
right?
great awakening. We had a show on neuro-linguistics. We had a guy come on, and our speech is our spells, our voice. Then indoctrinated in a lot of these words are taking away our power. So I say great fucking awakening to remind myself I'm not mourning shit anymore in my ecosystem.
I think
Beautiful.
what it allows you to do too is that you can actually connect your higher. What it allows you to do, because you realize that your two entities, or even like say physical reality and then non-physical reality, can be a multitude of spirits that can culminate and channel through you. But it allows you to connect to your higher self and physical self in reality, because who's kidding who? Even when we do go to the spiritual realm, when we do these plant medicines, if we allow ourselves to, but like we still have to live in this reality too, and deviate ourselves through this matrix. We still have to worry about an economy right now that we have to kind of I don't like conformity. I really don't like a lot of the rules that are, going on right now with government. I don't like, education is derived from the Latin word educo, which means that we have all the education really within to be able.
The police are here to enforce policy.
Yeah,
and the policy is created by the government, and then it's enforced by the judiciary, right?
Absolutely.
And so the judges in this country have been trying to help people that need medicine in the form of cannabis. But the unwritten story yet is what's going to happen with mushrooms, what's going to happen with ibogaine, what's going to happen with ayahuasca, what's going to happen with
I
all
love
of
that
these other medicines that can help people that aren't being talked about in the government. So why is it non-compliance? Is it
It's not-
they don't want to see it,
So-
they don't want to hear it?
Look, who's kidding who here? Okay, at the end of the day, the government was all over our ass, and as an international ex-drug smuggler, I was looked down upon, frowned upon.
You were the hero. You were providing medicine to the masses.
That's why I did the hero's journey, so I could make peace with
You
it.
already did the hero's journey. You put your
Maybe
life
paved
on
the way a
line.
little bit for the boys, right? But no, look.
How many people got helped by those bags that you
I think
facilitated?
I calculated where like 100 pounds could get 2 million people stoned.
Ryan Phillips. Ryan Phillips.
2 million people CBD and all the cannabinoids
Look,
needed.
You are not the enemy, sir. You are facilitating medicine. You are a medicine trader. So you could change that dialogue about yourself. You're not a criminal.
Well, I have now. That's the thing is I have now the internal dialogue that was killing me. That was the addiction. I was addicted to the internal dialogue. So I was telling a friend yesterday. Obviously, what we focus on expands. What we think about, we bring about, and that's the law of vibration. That is the law of attraction. We're feeling beings that are emitting vibratory energy. So when you can connect those vibratory energy particles of matter into the universe, how everything's created through, like, say, holographic images, projecting ourselves through a human nervous system, becoming self-aware, then you realize that, nothing's solid, and we can just bring things into form actually quite easily through the art of allowing.
CBA, conceive, believe, achieve.
Absolutely. Or conceive, create, experience, repeat.
Well done. Who talks about this stuff? No one.
Us.
Yeah. So now showing that leadership, getting this out to people that can take these programs or these acronyms and then put that into their life. Now we have a whole island of people. We have a whole country of people rising up.
I just love the fact that there's this like open discussion that we're having right now, how real it is. This is a discussion about truth. This is what we all, and it really brings you back to truth. That's what the plant medicine is doing. So who you really are, I'm actually not really Ryan. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. I'm not my name. I'm not my body, but I'm like an avatar. I'm a physical apparatus ripping around on this planet, and I'm going to make as much fun as I can for myself. Now, the trauma got in the way of that fun that I should have been having the whole time. So now that I've done the plant medicine, I'm going to keep doing plant medicine. Guess what? Now I'm going to start having a whole lot of goddamn fun again.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's good.
Great awakening.
Oh shit, I had another spiritual awakening. What was the first one?
All right.
And this isn't going down the spiritual wormhole.
All right. He says, you like to say great awakenings, and I like to say, people go, how are you? And I go, better now that I've seen you. And they're like, what? I threw it right back at him.
Yeah,
But,
So we're still in the middle of your question about how Mark got to Africa.
yeah, but
right.
we're going to get back to the shaman. The shaman.
The facilitator. I don't know how he'd like to refer to himself these days, but
It's a heavy. The shaman is a heavy term. Shaman is someone who bridges the spiritual world with the physical world. So it's everything we're talking about.
And so here I am. I'm in the pool hall, and my good friend Mark had saved up $15,000 to go to rehab. And with the habits you were sponsoring at that time,
8,000.
I was impressed.
Okay.
I could see that you were serious and you wanted change, right? You had taken time to prepare, right? And so I go home, I send you the website, and a week goes by. I haven't heard from Mark, and I'm thinking, geez, did he go to rehab? Where is he? And I get a call from Mark. He says, Kyle, you want to go for lunch? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm in Vancouver. He says, so am I. I said, what are you doing in Vancouver? He says, Kyle, I've been researching Iboga for a week on the internet. Wow. I found an Iboga, a shaman from Africa. He's practicing in Costa Rica. I bought a plane ticket. I'm leaving in 3 hours, and I want to have lunch with you. And I'm like, wow, this is like, holy shit, like, go for it, buddy. So we went and had lunch, and the best part, he goes, Kyle, it's only $5,000.
It's 6.
It's 6. It's so And it was only 1 week instead of 3 weeks. So it was more efficient and less expensive, and away you went, right? And I was I had a lot of anticipation to see when you got back. So what happened when you went down to meet Magenda in tell us a bit about Magenda.
Well, first preparing, as soon as you sort of make a decision like this, everything when I got home resonated for me. And especially in concurrence with what Kyle's talking about, the natural aspect and doing it with a shaman, doing it with someone who's traditionally used this for a long time. There was just no other way for me. So I was very excited when I found it, got my plane ticket, actually left one early morning. I remember, I think I had to hitchhike part of the way or something, I forget. But
this is in Costa Rica now?
No, on the way, that day, to get down to the city before I saw you.
Oh, you didn't tell me that part.
There's
okay.
a lot going into it once you start making this decision to do this.
Right.
Landed in Costa Rica with $6,000 in my pocket. I remember thinking, holy shit, that could be a lot of. I had my last shot in Texas. This was Houston. I had my last shot, and I mixed
shot of whiskey or
tequila and whiskey. I mixed it. I never had that before. So
how was that?
A shot of each. It was good.
Okay.
And then went. And
it was symbolic for you, my last shot.
It's just all symbolic. Your brain's going, I landed. I was like, wow, that's a lot of hookers and blow and
projectile vomiting.
But
the options kept popping.
But just still kind of but I was strong. There's no way I'm doing this. Yep. Especially telling my family that I was going to Costa Rica to work with a shaman and do iboga was just the last straw for them. Yeah, okay. So, but I went.
Right away, they thought that was a failure. Right when you were actually taking the steps to complete your own healing.
I'd really severed the trust for many years, so I know it's very expected that the reactions are like that, especially when I'm throwing another loopy-doopy idea like that out. But landing and going, I met the shaman, and he was treating a girl that night. So I went back into the main house, and I remember her screaming at the top of her lungs, and I was just what the hell have I got myself into? I was really, because I didn't really know too much about it. And
you heard about it a week before.
Yeah.
A week before. Now you're in the mountains of Costa Rica, and you're how far from a town?
I met Mugenda, and he's he's taller than I am, very big black shaman,
from Gabon, Africa,
very, he's a serious presence. It's like if you wandered into a zoo and all of a sudden you ended up in a tiger's place, and all of a sudden you're walking around, there's the tiger. It's okay.
And he was trained in this Buati tradition.
See, this is a shaman. A shaman spends half their life training for this. So for me, I would never go to Africa and say to those guys, I'm a shaman. I would have
who is Magenda's father?
His father was was his grandfather was the powerful shaman.
So he's the grandson of a shaman.
He's a 10th generation in bloodline shaman. So they already knew he was coming before he was born.
So his family has been for 10 generations shamans in Africa. This is the guy you went to meet.
Yeah, they're all real deals.
You're a snowboarder from Whistler, and you just flew down to Costa Rica to meet a 10th generation African shaman. I was having a baby in
2.5 months, man. Something had to change, and nothing to that point in my life had ever resonated with me that much.
Excellent.
Right? Wow. So I went, and then she came back screaming. She didn't have a real good experience, whatever. I went through the next day. It's basically you're preparing for battle if you're a warrior. You're going in. You're just you're going forward. You're not backing out. And I went, and I didn't know what the hell was going to happen. And it's a lot of it, he started talking to me. And I remember he was talking to me and going, oh man, you're going to be good. You're no problem. You're easy. Well, this will be fine. And I'm okay. And he sat and do what I now know is a huge part of this, which is the talking and the fire circles and the therapy that goes in with it. And, he told me one thing about recognizing truth from false. It's important, man. He's you know what I mean? He goes, okay, watch. He goes you got your friend over there back home, and you ask him a really good question. He gives you an answer, and then you can go to your sister and say the same one, and she'll answer. Who are you going to believe? And I'm well, my sister. He goes, exactly, because that's the truth. You see how it resonated with you? You got to learn how to do that with everything. Just little things like this. So I'm holy, okay, that's cool. You know what I mean? A bunch of that, all over the place. My brain, and then start taking medicine.
And how did you eat the medicine? Went the first time?
Root bark, good old Kyle.
So was it a powdered root bark in a capsule, or
powdered root bark in a spoon? You always do it the real way.
Okay, raw, right on your tongue.
Yeah. So very bitter.
What was your first taste of that medicine? What did it taste like?
I don't I loved it because I was ready for anything at that point. It's just like, just do it. And your first mouth of root bark is always okay. And everybody says, that's not bad. But, you know, you work on it. Even now we go to Africa and the most hardcore women or anything, they're like even on mouthfuls. It's like, and the shamans say, you know, it's good because you got to fucking earn it.
Yeah.
You got to fight for it.
Well, you just that taste there, that bitterness is there for you to earn that. You got to go through a little bit to pay a little bit.
It's an honor to be able to eat it, actually.
The burdock root and some of the other things all have the bitters. And in England, they have bitters that they added to the alcohol because the bitters were drawing out from our organs.
Yes.
Our tongue is connected to all the organs. So that bitterness is pulling any toxins that you have in your organs itself.
Yeah.
I spent a little bit of time here just in Lima, Peru, and Vanuatu with the cava and that sort of thing. And I met a guy down there, and he's one of his students, Sunshine Brown, she calls herself. And this guy's name is Andrew McLean. He worked in China doing crazy stuff with cosmetics that I really want to get into right now because I don't want to get hunted down. But so he left China. He spent about 30 years in South America doing all of this stuff. His name is Andrew McLean, and he wants to get up to Canada. I mean, this is a guy he took me around shopping in Lima and to all these places, and we bought all these fruits and vegetables, and he put them into his bath water. And this would cleanse his entire body. This guy is right up there with you guys are talking about. He is a psychiatrist and a GP, and he frickin' hates the government. And he took me to, and he hates the government because they tried to squash him too for 30 years. And he took me to a place because I was looking for opiates. I was looking for my hydromorphone, with Mark Tyndall's doing in Vancouver. He's giving out 8 milligram shots. So I was looking for my just 2 or 3 milligrams to get me so I can walk again. I'm all injured from the army. And so he took me to this. We went to every pharmacy, no opiates. You could not get opiates in Lima, in none of those places. Nobody asked me if I wanted cocaine, nothing. It's the coke capital of the world. And nobody could have opiates. You could get Tylenol, this and that. And this one guy's teaching this, and he's got his own school, Andrew McLean. And so I didn't know what the hell to do. So he took me to the last pharmacy, and it was a giant pharmacy in Lima made by the cartel. And he says, we're not even going to go in there, but we have to. Let's try. Nothing. You have to be dying of cancer to get an opiate in South America.
Wow.
So this stuff is so much needed right now, what you guys are talking about. And they're trying to cull that voice down there. And he'll come up if we pull our money, and Andrew McLean will speak to us, or we can talk, we can go on the McPherson stage, because all of these stories are helping people. Thank you very much. I don't want to keep going with your shaman story.
I'll
please.
just
Thank
go,
you.
Quickly. So then I mean, what really happened, and then, I took a pill form of the TA, and I laid down, and I was remember thinking in my, because he had a fire going outside, and then the music starts, which is a whole other situation. It's music that's been given to them, through the medicine and through spirit, and it's the threads, vibrational threads that connect the spiritual with the physical. So anyways, I started listening to music, but honestly, the very first time I felt something, it was this immense gratefulness and love that there was something that was going to help.
Yes.
And I knew that I would basically spend the rest of my life working with it right then.
Cool.
So
The first night you felt that?
first 15 minutes of laying down. So, and it makes sense to me now because I'm so involved with it. So,
Wow.
but anyways, laying there, I remember the vision started, and I had this vision of me the Predator, when it's mirrored image, you can hardly see him in the jungle.
Yeah.
The Predator.
Yep.
I could see myself like that, and then I went like this and just froze, and then fell and hit the ground and shattered into a billion pieces, and just began a series of that sort of
Became
thing.
one
Then
with
I-
everything.
then
So
I
was that
threw up.
your former self that
I don't
dissipated? or?
That's what I'm just displaying, that the visions that come through they're all representative of the spiritual words that you need to hear, that you are. You are the universe. So you're hearing yourself, or you're connecting with one. So then the shaman, I had questions I'd given him, and I had no idea what would happen. But when the medicine was really kicking in, he laid me down and he tapped my third eye. And he said, "Can you see my fingers?" And I was like, "Holy shit, yeah, I can." My eyes were closed. And so I was like, "Okay." And then I remember him asking the questions that I knew. He said, "Okay, go into a house and find Laura." Right? And I saw Laura. And then he says, "Okay," and they ask her questions. And I was talking to the baby mom, the mother, and asked him for forgiveness and stuff like this. And then I met myself and my soul, and we started asking the questions. And one of my questions was "Are you going to be a healer?" And I said, yes. It just said, so I was just answering them. And then he goes, stay still. You're all fidgety. Like, stay still. Like, stop. And then he asked me another question. And then he's like, what are you so moving around about? I said, well, I'm answering these questions. And he goes, well, who is answering these questions? I'm like, well, I'm answering these questions. And then my mind literally just blew out of because that's the first time I realized, like, who am I? And who was really, oh my God. And then I turned around like this, because it felt like there was a jackhammer in the back of my pocket. And I seen this giant blue, like, diamond, which I was guessing was my soul. And then I could see me all hunched over and not living up to my full potential. Yeah. And just realized, like, I had to make a change.
Very cool. Well done. And that was all,
This is all
right away in minutes.
No, this is... it's hard to like really condensify like time into
The
this whole situation.
space-time kind of
And I'm
starts
also really
shifting,
getting to the point a lot about to give a good understanding of the power of not just the medicine but yourself,
Yep.
and the importance of using this in a very traditional context, which is able to house this level of healing.
Yeah.
Speaking of tradition, Mark, Mugenda ended up inviting you to Africa. And you've
So
been down there two times or three times?
Just be quick. This is the very beginning. That's the very first time.
This in Costa Rica, the
I
first
came home.
time.
Somebody paid me an ounce in blow. Actually, they owed me money, and I was able to sit on that without doing it for a month. For the whole time, I never did it. I got rid of it. So I'm just saying that's how strong that event was, just for a physical change and a mental, spiritual reconnection. Yeah. And then
So you had your former enemy in your house.
it's all over.
For
It's
a
always
month.
around. Always
But
around. It's everywhere.
Of course.
It's only one thought away. Reality.
You can't get away from it.
Well, you can. You do, because you connect with yourself and you realize, like, to care to not care. You care about yourself so much, you don't care about that. You make your priorities you first. So, and that's where you get your strength and armor. Instead of abusing yourself, you protect yourself. You turn the bully into a bodyguard.
Wow.
Right? Perception. Right. And so I was able to say, I want to work the rest of my life. I returned to Costa Rica. I returned to like 2 more times. And then I started training. Then once I was training, I got taken off training, put back on healing. Then I've been to Costa Rica 12 times now. And then after about 2 years in, we had the baby, and that was beautiful. Actually, on the journey, he got me to go in and look at the baby, and he was healthy. And he looks just like that now. And anyways, then I went to Africa and did a full initiation with the Bwiti.
And on the plane to Africa?
This is my second.
Okay.
So this is my first trip. I went to Africa and did a full initiations.
And where'd you go in Africa? Tell us about that.
To Gabon. It's just jungle.
So you hit the airport, and then what happened?
You go to the jungle.
Tell us about that.
Well, you go to the jungle, and
how do you get to the jungle, Mark?
In a little, like, that particular time is a little tiny red van. Like, they just drive around in cheap vehicles all over the place. This is a
like a Datsun minivan or something.
It's intense as anything. It's a third world, like, super hardcore black country.
And you got $6,000 in your pocket.
No, not this. That's Costa Rica.
I was like, oh.
No, we've gone to Gabon now. Now I'm going to Africa. My first trip to Africa, I did initiations, which is where they initiate you using iboga into the Bwiti tradition, which is basically introducing you to the spiritual world, so that you can actually do iboga on your own without losing yourself.
Body, mind, and then spirit. Those are the three.
Three markings on my wrist you can't see here.
Yep.
And what you just said is what they say.
So in your course of actions and your words, we want to come from spirit to our mind, and then the mind has the experience.
Your mind is the most powerful tool that you have. It works 24/7, continuous thoughts. It's up to you to choose which ones you want, because he explained it.
Yeah.
Like, knowing who you are is knowing you're a spiritual being who has the ability to manifest life. Like, God created us in his image. So that means that we're like little gods. That means like that we're creators. We're the same, the whole same thing.
So what's the goal? Is it to create a calm ecosystem within?
What he said, happiness. He said it as fun instead.
What vibration would be that? If you're explaining that.
For anyone who wants to know about
Mike. Pass the mic.
Anybody that wants to know about vibrations and whatnot, that's not completely tuned in to how all that is, or everything, it does come down to vibratory energy. There's a great book called Power versus Force, written by Dr. David Hawkins. Wayne Dyer actually called it one of the most important books that was ever written. And it actually shows how there's, a map of consciousness and how energy is actually calibrated at certain levels of, megahertz, like you were talking about earlier. But it's just what he actually kind of breaks down what you find out during doing plant medicine in a book. But some of us really need to feel it, especially the people like that have dealt with addiction. Like I have dealt with addiction, and I needed to get over my addiction. And like it's, I've done lots of cocaine, I've done lots of MD. Like I needed something to remove that and because all I was doing was always just masking whatever I am, whoever I thought I was only putting that crap in my body because it was making me feel a certain way to get outside of self. But when I could accept myself as love, then why would I want to hurt that love with, that certain chemicals, like say, I'm not a drinker, I don't need to do cocaine, I don't need to do, whatever. It doesn't matter. Everyone's different, but like we're all the same. We're all one. So anyways, I'm going to throw that.
Hey, Robin, could you bring up Wayne Dyer?
You want me to bring up Wayne?
No, over here. We got a producer who does that. Can you bring up Chocolate to Morphine, Understanding Mind-Altering Drugs? Chocolate to Morphine. It's a book I read in the 70s, and I think it was by Wayne Dyer. And he said our biggest thing going forward, gentlemen, we haven't really touched on it today, is there are children that may listen to this podcast. There are teens that haven't developed their brains yet. All this stuff is happening. How do we address that group? Because that would be a law thing. It would be a legal thing. And how do we address helping because of laws and stuff?
Through an organization called Pathways, which is a major, it's a serious mental health company, corporate, non-for-profit that helps with families that to understand the misunderstood mental health. I've been able to speak to schools on a weekly basis. I'm very grateful. Next week I get to speak to my old school twice. So I'll have 8s and 9s, and then after that I'll be speaking to 11s and 12s on the topic of mental health, obviously, because the kids need to be educated at such a young age these days in this rapidly changed world of with digital technology, with everything, because we're overstimulated these days. Who's kidding who? Like the vibratory energy within the planets, the ether is literally ricocheting shots of energy through our skulls nonstop.
5G's coming.
It's coming. It's already here.
Can we stop it?
Well, we're stopping it right now because we're in a different energy field. We're in a different vortex.
Nice.
So we need to educate these kids more on definiteness of purpose. Actually, self-discovery we need to implement this kind of stuff into the educational system. So I literally kind of subconsciously, in my own unique way, when I'm talking to these kids in school, I'm tell them, hey, you can do anything you put your mind to. Even mental illness. If you're suffering from a mental illness doesn't need to define you. You may have been told or mislabeled or whatever, and just being you is enough. Just being your true self is enough.
You hear that you hear the kids out in society. If you hear them saying something you don't like, you can interrupt them too. I was stuck at the ferry terminal about 3 weeks ago, right? And there's 2 kids in the banyo, and the one kid's telling the other kid how he's studying poker, right? And he's about 18 years old.
Really?
And I said, excuse me, if I were you, I would quit right now. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, I've wasted thousands and hours of my life sitting at a poker table. And I said, you should be out dancing with women, playing sports, hiking in the forest. And the kid's looking at me like I'm crazy.
That's funny.
But I hope, when he got home that night,
he might have thought about constructive
it.
Craziness. It was constructive craziness is what it was. I was walking home from, I went to go get a coconut water a couple days ago. I live really close to the mountains up in the North Shore, and there's these high school kids. This one kid was in grade 8 probably, and he was talking about eating roaches. So I don't know. I was like,
all the cannabinoids. You see the dogs eat the roaches around the shop here. here, my little Pomeranian.
Kids, for the record, we do not need any stinking roaches, okay?
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways,
So let's get back to Africa. Mark's about to tell us
There's
something.
other people. I'm going to just do a fast version here. So, first time I went to Africa, I did what's called initiation, and that's your initiation into the Bwiti tradition using iboga. So they jam you filled with iboga, mega, and it's a fuel that can push you above and sort of connect you with your soul, and you can see into the future and see into the past and be here, present. So the second time I went to Africa, I met a beautiful woman on the plane. I ended up marrying her. We ended up going on my third trip. I married her, and we conceived our son there. My second trip is interesting because we did this thing called a rites of passage, and that's where all the boys and go through this 4 or 5 day process where we all go through it. They bring fear to your face. They do tons of things, and they teach you lessons about life, like that, these ultimate rules where you need to respect your parents no matter what, even if they're wrong, truth and honor, like about the real stuff, like, if you want to act like a man, if you want to be a man, act like one. I didn't say you can't play around anymore. I just said you can't fuck up anymore, because they can't have, in their society, they got to teach traditional values to their kids so they don't continue to make these same mistakes up in their own villages. Or if they go to the jungle, you can't have these kids fucking up in the jungle.
I seen that in Vanuatu, man, the circumcision
It's
ceremonies
life or
for little
death
boys.
in those situations.
Exactly. And here too.
Hugely important.
We don't see it fast like that, though. It's life and death. But if you let it go unaltered, like
it's numbed down with corn syrup, with the techniques used to hold people in positions.
Yeah. So I've done many, many, many iboga ceremonies in Africa.
Yep.
I've been around really serious shamans where someone will walk in with a major problem where they can't even walk, and they'll perform because their temples there or their doctor's offices.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different things spiritually. So when we talk about vibratory levels of connecting with ourselves and all that, they're simple to them. It's the soul. So how do these things take it out of the body? Remember you were saying before, maybe these bitters in it. No, it's just because iboga's going in and kicking them out.
Yeah.
And some of these really bad, like fentanyl and iboga, the battle can be so intense that the body can lose. So you have to be very careful, and that's why we like using things like ibogaine now to slowly walk somebody off of a heavy addiction. So anyways, that led to me starting my own business in 2014. I've worked with probably over 1,000 people. I went super after intense mental problems, physical addictions, mental health as wealth. And trained myself to really see what this medicine could do. And then that led to where these guys wanted to do a documentary on this girl. And they started out, they heard microdosing could help. And they went and microdosed her on mushrooms and gave her mushrooms. And they filmed it. They were making a documentary. And 5 months into it, they hit a wall because she just, obviously, mushrooms was not strong enough to end her really significant opiate and cocaine addiction. And they called me. And I went on film to do it. And so that's led to now, that was a successful treatment. And she's now 2 years clean.
Very cool.
And then she used mushrooms afterwards in the movie, and it showed I think there was efficacy because she was more receptive now to the mushrooms. It's like Star Wars. Some of my friends don't like when I use this, but in one of the last ones, they're attacking the transport. Do you remember the one where she turns around and drives right through the big starship? Maybe too much. Anyways, what I'm getting at is they had to sit there and attacking this transport, but the big starship couldn't do anything because it had its force field on. But eventually that she was running out of gas. And as soon as that force field was down, blammo. So that's with us with the medicines. It's nice to use the ibogaine to get someone to get that force field down, and then we come in with the heavy, because the spirit of iboga wants to come in, man. He's just going to clear the room. So you want to go, if you go to your house and there's a big party going on, right? Before maybe you call the cops to clear. You don't want those people. It's like your head. The shit's all going in your head. You got to get them out, and iboga's going to come in. So you want to clear the area out a bit, and then when iboga comes in, and
with food too, fear meat, so all the meats that are in your body can create vibrations. Was there a dietary?
They love meat. They're they don't even know vegetarians over there. So when you say that, you're you got some special protocol.
Yeah, we're talking about Walmart meat. Talking about
this is jungle meat.
Yeah, no, yeah. But I mean,
I think yes, I do think so. Yes,
yeah,
I think
by
spiritually,
clearing
yes.
yourself and preparing for without some of those things that can alter.
No, you're exactly right.
Preparation.
Preparation in any form forward is going to be beneficial, right? And if you've got that down to that do you think there's some negative energy or some bad spiritual stuff's coming in with those animals and that? For sure.
So I like that analogy you're using, Mark, of the force field. It's like a psychic force field that an addict will put up, and
But it's a physical
they're
one.
living within that. They're
It's a
behind it.
It's a real physical one though with addicts. There's an actual like physical like force field. Like, you know, if Gord was here, we could talk about.
So how do you clear it out? What's that stick that you have there?
Well, this is a torch from Africa. This is what they use in all the ceremonies. So this one has a casing on it. So this is like, it's got different medicines in it, and it has a kume resin, which is from a big tree, that holds high spiritual. Like, this guy can just go and clear energy out.
Cool.
Can I light that for you, Mark?
Well, I'll show you how to do it.
Okay, you got it. Okay.
10 minutes left in the podcast, gentlemen. This is fantastic. I could go on for days. 10 minutes to countdown.
So you brought this from Africa.
The fire here helps us in ceremonies. Like, I would say almost spiritually lets darkness know where you are. This thing will stay lit, and then, but this the smell also that just, you know, it's just a big smudge stick.
Is there music playing generally?
The UBC is doing measurements on vibration of the water molecule, and I think these plants have different vibrations that then can be taken in through our system. So that smell, that smudging, is something that a lot of cultures do.
Might be too smoky in here, but.
We got the window open. That's fine.
Okay. I'm gonna pass it to Wyatt.
Welcome, Wyatt.
Mark likes a lot of fire. They used to call him Sparky.
Would you like to introduce yourself, Wyatt? And
Yeah, Wyatt, come on.
Last thing.
My name's Wyatt Michael. I'm Gordon's son. And Gordon's left the room for some reason. I don't know if he's coming back.
So what are your feelings and your thoughts on what you're hearing today, and what is your experience? We've only got a few minutes left, but please share.
Well,
Thank you.
I noticed you guys weren't pretentious enough to start this podcast with a land acknowledgement. But these medicines, like Kyle has been trying to say, they're not chemicals. They're spirits that exist in a greater structure of tradition and ritual. And even if we do a great ceremony, a great healing ceremony for somebody, that's not going to be enough to change their life. Maybe some people are going to be ready to grab their life after that and take it in the direction they want to go in, but that's because they're already a person who's a high achiever, who's driven. You know, most of the people in this room, you have crazy life stories because you've all been trying. You've all been driven your whole lives to achieve, to do things, even if it's criminal, even if it's harmful to the people around you. You've all been trying to go from the moment of your birth and be great, do great things, and you've all turned your lives around in some way and used that energy for good things. But there's people out there on the street who don't have those powers, and I hope that you guys are going to find some way to help them, because they don't have thousands of dollars to give you to support your business, and they don't have parents who are going to, mortgage their house to pay you to help these people. These are people that have no hope. They have no family to help them. There's thousands of people like that out there.
I left the room for a moment there, and I realized why we're all here. It's not even about. This is a platform where we can talk about our personal stories, but moving forward, how are we going to help the people that need it the most? These are the people that are on the streets. After my bike ride, I actually, as a test just to my own mental faculties, I stayed at a homeless shelter for a week, and I did that because I wanted to connect to those minds, and I wanted to see where they came from, because I wanted to live in some kind of solution-based idea that I could maybe have for people that are the ones that are still suffering, that haven't overcome, that haven't had the opportunity to tackle their addictions. So how are we going to do that? I believe that this has been a wonderful open conversation of truth, and we need to get this video out. I'm going to do my best to get this out to the world. world as fast as possible, and like we all need to help each other. That's about that. Like that's what binding as one is all about. Like we need to be able to like lift the people that are down the lowest and bring them up so they have hope. Like that's all we got here is today and hope for the future. So what do? Like we got to implement solution-based ideas, and I'm constantly going to be coming up with them. I believe it's through nature, and I believe that you can turn it into it is a business. Everything's a business. Well, like what about the business of the people getting well? So we got to figure that one out, and collectively through obviously people that are very educated about it, and bring it to the surface, because this has been going on for centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries over there. They've been healing mental illness and all their stuff through these medicines for thousands of years.
And they don't have any money.
And they don't have any money.
But let's get back to Wyatt, because we still got to fit Paul in. We got how many minutes left, sir?
Not many.
6?
Lots.
We can go another half an hour if we want, but
Just keep going.
Okay.
There's no rush here. We did a 3-hour podcast. We can stay as long as we want.
Okay. Pardon me. He said 10 minutes. I didn't know if we
You know what? These guys are rocking it.
Pardon me. As you were.
So please continue talking for as long as you want. You can even do something where you find a good pause in the conversation. Ken says an outro, and then you guys just keep talking and pick up extra stuff. It's fine.
Okay.
As long as you guys are comfortable, as long as you want to go.
Pardon me.
It's like having the entire encyclopedia here in one place at one time. It's hard to read. It's hard to comprehend it all, conceptualize it all. It's amazing.
We're grabbing onto a lot of new ideas from everybody here in the room.
No.
We got Kyle Michaels, Paul Michaels with us, Gord Michaels, Wyatt Michaels. Ryan Phillips is here today. Mark Howard on the show here, and Mr. Armstrong is taking care of our stet direction. Jeremiah Armstrong and
William Hoare.
William is here. There's William. He's got a hell of a story to tell too. And how was that DMT, William? Yeah, a little eye-opening the other day. It was amazing to watch.
I had a blast. I was able to see vibration in raw form through the plant, and I think it changed the optics of the eyes of what you're seeing. And then we know that normally our optics are not just seeing what a human being normally sees. These plant vibrations, they take us into other optics or opportunity to visit other vibrational optics.
Or the one that your optic.
Yeah. It's your perception of the experience.
Yeah, and at some point I think it's almost like you might even go beyond that word perception. Just reality. Just being real in reality, spirituality.
Yeah.
So I just want to say quick, because it's a good point and it's coming up a lot. So Dose, the movie that we made, is starting to get a lot of international recognition. We've been in like 5 or 6 or something countries now. We've played in over 50 cities. We just went over 200,000 on our views for the trailer.
Good.
They're just releasing a big United States launch. It's in New York on the 21st. We just sold out 2 shows again the other night in Victoria. So we've sold out 3 shows here in Victoria at the Vic. And I just want to say, one of the big things we have is exactly what Wyatt's talking about. And it's hard for us because this is such a massive thing. And I just want to say the best thing right now we can do is get this education out there, because the more support we have with the Canadian government or with real foundations that can help us use these medicines in a non-risky way, and the more support we have, that'll bring the cost down of this whole thing. We're just out there, like, we have to house somebody for 8 days to 10 days or 4 days or whatever it is. So it's expensive to feed them, house them, risky to take care of them at this level, medically, everything like that.
When you're putting your life on hold to help them, you're creating that space for them, and so the facilitation of the medicinal path does take time, and it takes energy. And so how do we exchange currency with people that can't afford it? I think that's where you were going, Wyatt.
Right now is like, go blast this out there so people can't say no anymore. They have to help us.
Yep. We're on Main Street, brother.
Yeah.
We're laying down the message through all you guys here, and that's what we want to reach. 1620 wants to reach the street. We start with the street and we go up from there.
So you guys are good guys. You're passionate. You want to help people. You want to heal the world, right? Right now, the government of Canada is invading sovereign land in northern BC and violently removing people
I was at the
from their.
What,
Yeah. And meanwhile, people are having these spiritual experiences and thinking that means they have to fly in a plane to South America and fly in a plane to Africa, and we're ignoring the traditions of the people on the land that we live on. You know, people have lived here and they've healed themselves. They've healed problems of the people
We're not
living here right
ignoring
now.
it. We're doing it. And there's the cedar from
Nice
the
catch.
Lekwungen
Beautiful
territory, and
Awesome.
the healing oils of the cedar in smell change the body's vibration. So this is our packaging, and the packaging will protect this medicine's vibrational clarity. The importance that we haven't talked upon is the plastic vibration from packaging, and this is in food and water, and also on medicine.
There's a million different problems with our capitalist colonial system.
We start with the fraction.
And if we're
that
focusing on
makes-
plastic, if we're focusing on pollution, if we're focusing on these effects, we're not going to solve the problem.
just a minute, we focus on the problem, and the problem is in your own ecosystem, remove the oil barons from changing it to a negative vibration.
We'll have to take responsibility for ourselves.
Yes, and
not
that
whole
fraction
world.
at the beginning will create clarity in one's ecosystem, and then the message won't be a mental health issue because the mental health issue will be fixed.
Well, there's something really important I want to say before I pass this on.
You bet.
And that is that most of us in this room have a close relationship with plant medicines in some way or another, whether it's cannabis, whether it's psychedelics or something like that. And we all have a connection to that spiritual world that's very deep, and it's a big part of our lives. But that's not necessarily true for everybody. We don't need to have everybody in the world taking ceremonial medicines every weekend or every month. Some people may need it a couple times in their life. And one of the most important places in someone's life that we can give someone an experience like that is their initiation into adulthood. We take a teenager or someone in their early 20s, whatever, and if we can create an experience for them where they recognize that they have transformed from a child into an adult, the child has died and the adult has emerged like a phoenix from that death, then they are going to be able to have confidence in themselves and live their life as their true self, rather than being stuck in whatever trauma they had as a child, because everybody has that, right?
Thank you for saying that,
whatever it may
Wyatt. I wanted to bring this up 5 minutes ago when you were asking how do we talk to the youth? How do we deal with teenagers that aren't allowed to access these medicines? But what Wyatt's talking about is like a coming of age ceremony, a manhood ceremony. And I had the very good fortune to sit in a lecture of Paul Stamets in Cortez Island in September. And there was a stat that he brought out that really touched me. And he said that if a male Homo sapien has one experience eating psilocybin mushrooms, just one in their lifetime, they're 40% less likely to be giving out domestic violence, aka harming women. So imagine, fathers, uncles, brothers, sons, when your young men are 14, 15, 16, take them camping, take them to the woods, and give them 1 gram of mushrooms and be their guide and help them. Because if that 1 gram of mushrooms can stop them from hurting a woman as they're coming into adolescence, how many of those women are not going to have anxiety and depression that is caused from being harmed by a man without wanting that? And so the male woman aspect of this starts with a ceremony for the youth. And thanks for bringing that up, Wyatt.
Well, you're right, Kyle. One of the greatest tragedies in our society is the disconnection between men, and so many men grow up without a father, and they don't have that connection to the experience of what a man's society is. So many men are raised by women. We don't know how to relate to other men. That's certainly true of myself.
Myself too.
And
Grandma.
not everyone is even going to have that opportunity to have their father take them camping and give them 1 gram of mushrooms. There needs to be a greater sort of tribal experience.
That's what I'm saying.
with that,
Uncles,
right?
cousins, brothers. If the father's not around, the uncles
even a
could
group
step
of 10
in.
or 20 kids, right? Like someone like Mark, who has a shaman's heart and who has that deep connection to the spiritual world. There's some way that you or people who have these powerful life-changing experiences, you could be creating an initiation.
Totally, that's the plan.
For young people.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. Because if you could get the children before you even got to it's because this is for our children. It's the original reason why I did it.
Right. It's about the youth.
But it's
and how do we change the society? We change the youth.
You change yourself first.
And then we vibrate to our friends.
And then everything else comes from that, by example.
And if we have a higher vibration, our friends will want to achieve that too. Right? So if you start vibrating on a pure and true frequency, that rubs off from your network. And then your network gets stronger. And you can tell more people about these medicines.
Lead by example.
So we'd have to get the government on our side. I remember, wasn't the government in the 50s that would use take people's brains and shock them and give them LSD treatments and tie them to a bed, and then
there's an elephant in the room here. His name's Paul Michael. He's one of the most talkative, well-known characters from Victoria, BC. Paul, you grew up with Gordon, your older brother. You've seen Wyatt and I grow up. You've been part of the Michael family your whole life. What did you feel today listening to your brother and your nephews and Mark and Ryan and Kit and myself?
Yeah.
What did you feel today? What did you hear?
Okay, I'm 61 years old, Paul Michael from Victoria, BC. I'm a recovering addict. I just been listening for the last hour and a half, and Mark says he's had 1,000 patients. I want to know what percent of the 1,000 people he's dealt with are cured.
Back to Mark.
80%, 90%.
Out of those 1,000 people, not everyone I've directly worked with. This is me working with other people, seeing them. I've seen about 1,000 people. I would say.
Mark, could you come out of the?
We got room on the bench for all you guys now.
Well, I maybe let's just go to the really hardcore addictions. Say 100. Say 100. No, I'm just giving you a breakdown.
People on death's
bed. I'm gonna do have 100. Out of a super hardcore 100, okay, 3 are dead. Okay, 1 died 24 hours. I was talking with him really close. He actually drove me, and another died a week later. Not after Iboga, but I'm saying I worked with these people.
You're talking about hardcore addicts, Mark. People that were close to death with their habits
they're coming
already.
to me this. I'm just saying, yeah, exactly. I've been in the hospital 40 times with people. I have say 10 people that are really close to me right now that they were their lives have completely been changed. 40 people that they're clean. I would say 70% stay totally clean. Mostly it's almost like a relapse. It's almost mandatory sort of situation usually happens. You get someone like Gord who got knocked off of 35 years of methadone, which is really hard overnight. But then 2 days later, told me out of honesty, Mark, I love you, but I'm a hardcore drug user, and now I'm going to go get messed up. And he went on a 2-week terror.
So I wanted to bring that up, actually, Mark.
But is it still positive?
Paul, you asked how many people got cured. And so then it's what is the definition of being cured? Because what I noticed about my dear Uncle Gordon was that even though he still parties and flirts with women and whatever other addictions he may have, his soul changed, his heart changed, and he put down the opiates. And he called me crying one day and told me, Kyle, you took my handcuffs off. And I said, what the hell are you talking about? Your handcuffs? You weren't in jail. He goes, you don't understand. I had to go to the pharmacy every single day to get my dose of methadone and drink it in front of them like a child, because they were worried if I took it away, I'd sell it to somebody. And so every day for over 30 years, he had to go there and do that, or he would go into withdrawal. And so he called me and he told me, Kyle, you took my handcuffs off. He was handcuffed to that pharmacy.
Yeah.
And so was he cured or was he not? I don't know. So there's a spectrum of change. You don't need to start going to church and the gym to be cured of a former evil or a further addiction, maybe.
So
ready to come back?
The reason why I asked them what percent are cured, if it's 10%, that's unreal. If it's 50%, that's unreal. But the point I'm trying to make is that with the heroin addiction problem in British Columbia and Canada, I would say 50% of all crime is due to heroin addiction. Beanies, car thefts, stealing, doing this, doing that, doing this. Why doesn't the government wake up, take in Mark, take in the Eboga program, get rehab centers all over BC, cure the heroin problem, and stop the crime? Hospitals, police, ambulance, fire trucks, hundreds of millions of dollars are spent on heroin addiction.
Jails, prisons, courts, judges.
On and
Cars
on.
broken.
And on and
You
on.
got to get the window fixed.
And isn't this the farm? Isn't this the farm, human farm, that creates all that?
It's crazy. Insanity.
What we do is we look to see it, and we see the farm, and we go back to our own ecosystem. We make it calm, and we show leadership on our choices, and that's the only thing that can change it. What is it? Truth.
Basi.
Okay, so the truth is, yes, all of this is out there. We're apes on a slave-driven, organized structure.
It's a spaceship. It's called Planet Earth.
Yeah, so
what are we going to
do? We're going to take our little ecosystem, show all our brothers what we can do with vibrational crystals and eating our food off of silver and using silverware and going back to the practices of the history of our past, our family names that come from places where real nature was used. Synthetics weren't the norm.
Yeah.
So synthetics create an ecosystem of resonance. And we change that in the water molecules that make up self. And we did that for the Tim Hortons on the set because we want to show that Tim Hortons will support us. Especially a guy named Tim Horton, a real guy named Tim Horton, would support leadership and ecosystem, right?
Here, Kit.
Himself and died at the wheel, drunk.
Well, there we go. So now we're talking about the bigger system and how it has played its role. How do we play our role? How do we take it back down to us?
So let's get back to Paul. Paul, you're wondering, why is the government not paying attention to this? Why aren't the elected officials that are elected to help the people? We have a public health crisis going on in British Columbia.
Right.
Thousands of people are dropping dead on the street.
Right.
And they're running around busting people for cannabis.
Exactly.
They were on the island last week busting people. An undercover agent was bringing actual currency to this island and busting people for cannabis. And we have people dying in the goddamn streets, and they're not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
Time for action.
There's a reason why my psychiatrist is driving a there's a reason why my psychiatrist is driving a brand new yellow Ferrari. There's no coinky dink that
Take lithium.
He can just roll in, everything's just okay, and I'm just going to write you this prescription that's going to make your mind better, that has serious ramifications on your physicality as well, it's, and then trying to get off that. First, it's gonna mess your mind up, and then you want to unmess your mind and try to come off that shit. Well, I had to do that. I know that. I had to do that. I had to come off. I was riding across Canada literally in tears at some points because I started taking lithium because I believed my psychiatrist told me that I was bipolar. Well, through doing plant medicine, I realized that I ain't bipolar. I'm just bi-traumatized. And I can own that shit and I can fight that shit with my mind power that I actually realize that I have. Through the magic of the plant medicine, or I can listen to a gentleman who hasn't had the same life experience as myself because it's been goddamn intense. Yeah, whatever. I can own that too. And that shit was bleeding through my skin going across Canada. I wasn't able to get a hard on for 4 months, and that's the truth. Thanks.
That was from the bad tip job?
Lithium.
No.
Oh, that was the lithium. Okay.
That only took 5 days to heal, by the way. I can heal. I heal quick.
So on the sixth day, on the sixth day, were you creating the world, or
On the 7th day, he
were
rested.
you recreating on the 6th day? Was it that quick, the turnaround?
As far as this downstairs healing, you mean?
The bad tip, yeah.
Oh God! It did, yeah. Thank God, because it didn't look good in the first place. I was
Okay.
I was excited.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I hope someone gave you a good tip at the end of your journey.
It's not over yet.
The anaconda has a smile on its
Isn't that
face.
what we're in right now?
Leo, the one-eyed
I'll be waiting for some at the door when I leave.
Leo, the one-eyed boa constrictor of love.
Yeah, the doctors you mentioned driving the fancy cars and the police and the ambulance. This is like a decade in, and they're developing a huge way.
William just walked in.
You're gonna have to start
William had
for action.
he's one of those positive people
We're talking about the
around.
doctors in the yellow cars.
Flesh-eating
Yeah, the
disease
fancy
3 years
William
ago.
Horror, everybody.
Close to your mouth, too, please.
Flesh-eating
William
disease
Horror.
3 years ago, and has completely turned his life around.
Oh
At
my
16,
gosh,
20.
this is not- it's, let's be natural. Let's be natural here, boys. But
See what he has to say.
my point is this is like at least a decade, probably 20 years in, where they've really been facing this opiate crisis. And this is almost $1 billion in this provincial alone. So we're not dealing with the dealers. We're dealing with who's making the money on the whole system. So let's not focus. I just believe addicts are caught at the bottom of this system, which is created by, it's created to keep the whole system running.
By the commerce itself.
Yeah, it's commerce itself. So I think that we always look at it backwards. What you mentioned, it always reminds me, when you mentioned the doctors who drive these fancy cars. The cops, yeah, but these they're always applying for extra. They need more cops. They need more firemen.
They need a higher budget.
They need more doctors. They need more nurses. They need the whole system. They need more social workers.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree.
See, but the system's
need more prison
perpetuating
guards.
It's perpetuating it
Not only that.
farther and farther. So that's the first thing that, as we look at
Be
it,
addressed. Is
That's
the
be
first
addressed.
thing?
The first
Okay,
thing-
so the first step in addressing this issue is what? What
Well,
actions can be taken
let's just-
in our own?
Let's state the obvious. Let's just state the obvious
Okay.
right front.
Let's get on it.
If
Is that-
we were, let's pretend we were in control of we had this money that the ministry, the country has to shut down a crisis. How would we go about it? We'd shut it down. Believe me, with our ignorance and our lack of training, we could shut the shit down. So
Are you
that's
talking about the opiate crisis?
The opiate crisis in general is
Okay.
is a thing that if you had a problem with an opiate crisis, you'd send in a task force and shut the shit
So
down.
that's what we are.
You'd send thousands, but the reason is it makes so much money. You see, that's the people. The awareness is not there. You're not looking at it correctly.
But hold on, I don't. It's not making. It's not making money. It's costing society money. Because
no.
what
Oh, it
says he's right. It's making money.
What
It's in-
Ryan's talking about mental health, right? What about the
a commodity.
the PTSD of the
I'm trying to
firefighters,
start.
the ambulance drivers
This is the
that
trickle down
I think
effect.
what the thing is that just for 2 seconds, and I really want you to take over because I really believe in what you say here, is that in some cases, look, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist, I have my beliefs, and I've been on both ends of the spectrum where I've taken a lot of fucking pharmaceuticals that messed with my mind in a negative way that really, really warped my thinking. And so I had to come off that, and it wasn't easy coming off that. So that's why I advocate mental health awareness. So to get my mental health back and get my mind right, it had to come back naturally for me. So when I see it's all about money when it comes down to big pharma and all that kind of stuff. They get paid to write prescriptions. That's the obvious, but that's all they know. They don't really know my old story. In order for me to go back to my old story and let it go, lithium didn't work for me. Plant medicine did, and continues to, and I will continue to, and so I can keep being my true self, not something that's going to be self-medicated where I'm like, how's everything going today, Ryan? Pretty good. Kind of like having a nap.
I didn't mean to cut you off, sir.
Yeah.
Can you please come back?
Yeah, I'd like to hear what you had to say.
I didn't mean to change the story there.
No, I just,
Okay.
sorry, I just
Yeah.
get off. I get off myself. I don't want to
Yeah.
change your story.
Pardon me.
This is the thing is that it's not about my story. It's about all our stories. And like pharmaceuticals really hurt my inner being. Like it hurt me. It hurt a lot. Even when look, my legs hurt when I went up the Rocky Mountains going across this country. But that stuff was bleeding through my it was coming out of me. It was like it's a lithium comes. They make batteries with that stuff, and that's supposed to be the gold standard to something that I don't even like, that I was misdiagnosed with bipolar. No, like I don't know, just doing that. I think people a lot of the time, just because we're feeling beings. We're supposed to feel. We're driven on the human emotions, and so all of a sudden, like if we have loss and like people like come and go, and like we're dealing with those emotions and grief and whatnot. Those are natural human emotions that are very hard to process if we don't have the right people around us to help us through it. And so then we go to we think we're messed up, but I think we have to come to the realization that we're not as messed up as we think we are. We're all going through our internal battles here. And so the more that we can unite and come together, and like, why is there one Bell Let's Talk Day? Why is every single day, 365 days a year, every second of the year is somebody, like every day it should be Mental Health Awareness Day. Every day. So that's
Excellent.
what brings us together. That's what makes more of the awareness of the plant medicine. That the people that have all the money people that maybe have some different opinions about the government as well want to start like putting up resources where people can go and do these sacred ceremonies here, where just like whatever's needed, whatever's beneficial for society, so society can be better and sustain instead of like restrain and resist and persist for that crap that doesn't belong here. Nature belongs here. We need to bring it back more sustainable.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Gordon.
Well, thank you. I just had a little bite to eat there and a pee.
You want to take the mic?
Gordon Michaels.
I didn't know you were coming back. I think you walked in on me telling the story about you called me. So I hope I told it well.
Well, I'll see it on film or at home.
I looked up and you were there. So welcome back. We're just talking about mental health, addiction, plant medicine, and healing.
We were going to ask him. We were talking about the percentage of people that got healed, and Paul asked the percentage of people that got healed. Right. And then we were bringing up like the definition of really being healed, which is a good one. And so I guess what would you consider happened in healing terms with your first Ibogaine experience or Iboga experience?
Well, I couldn't believe it when it took away the withdrawal. I mean, the Iboga, it totally blew my mind, and I still can't believe it today that what it did for me. And I think the success rate is good, but it's getting it out there. I mean, the first thing I wanted to do when I got back from the Iboga was start my own treatment center with the Iboga. And I wanted that more than anything in the world. But the gauntlets they make you jump through, and the nurses and the doctors you must have, and the expense and the money and the location, it's a big deal. But we need it. We've got to have it. It's the only answer, and I've tried everything else, and that's the only thing that works.
How many? Let me ask you something, Gordon. If you lived in Victoria, most of your life off and on. I know you said you've been to 38 countries, but you've been back in Victoria for some time. I don't know if you ever interact with any addicts in Victoria, or people that on the street or anything like that. How many people that do you think would go towards a solution like this if they had access to it? If they knew that they were going to get taken care of, they had to go maybe to Courtenay for a week or Nanaimo for a week and get taken care of. How many people do you think would make that choice?
I think out of 10, like there's addicts that don't even want to quit, right? But most of them do. And I say that's probably 90%. And the success of the Iboga would be 3/4, I'm sure, because the strength it has, if it takes away the withdrawal, you got it beat. Then you got to start working with your mind and getting your head straight with the addiction. But once you get rid of the withdrawal, the sickness and the crying and the screaming, and then you got a good grasp on it, right? To start healing yourself.
What were some of the other things that helped you along that were part of the journey? That was very, good assistance from family.
AA.
Yeah.
AA, I've been AA all my life. My dad opened the Alano Club in 1958.
Milt Michael on Broad Street, first AA club in Victoria.
60 years.
Wow. How many people do you think your dad helped in this town?
Thousands.
Wow.
To get off alcohol.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Milt Michael.
That's all he did. Every day and every night. He'd go out and visit alcoholics, go to the hospital, and help people to get off the booze.
Do you remember the postal worker that had the big hat?
Removing spirits.
Yeah.
From the Alana Club?
Yeah.
What was his name? He had a postal worker, had the big flowery hats and stuff.
Oh,
and,
I know. I thought you were talking
he worked with your dad, obviously, for many years.
Oh, you're talking
little
Mike.
Little guy.
Oh, little guy.
Yeah. Those are great times down there. They had this he was like a clown. He was the
lot of
funnest guy in the
old-timers,
world. Sorry for
cards.
interrupting, Kit.
Cards in the pool.
Paul, did you ever go in there to the Alano Club on Broad Street? Gordon, give Paul the mic here.
I spent a lot of times watching my father play pool and attend meetings while I was eating a hamburger in Alano Club. It's old school. Actually, it's shut down. It's very sad. It was a place for people to go to. They had meetings morning, noon, and night. They had camaraderie, dances, Halloween parties with no alcohol. And then I guess what happened was the NA program got into the AA program. And it was kind of because the difference between
The vibe changed.
The vibe changed. Guys were coming out in there and doing drugs, shooting up in the washrooms and stealing stuff, and so it was kind of a conflict of interest. But they're there for the same reason.
Yeah.
So my father passed away. Then I think maybe 10 years later it shut down.
So
Very sad.
how many men and women in Victoria do you think your father helped?
Wow. Well, he was there, I think, 55 years in the Alano Club, involved. Yeah.
Wow.
It's funny, he had a set routine. Left the house at 10 o'clock, home at 5:10, left again at 6:30. So he's there all day.
Interesting thing Mark said earlier about his shaman Mugenda. He said that Mugenda's father wasn't a shaman, but his grandfather was. And so, can we pass the mic back to Wyatt, Michael? Because Wyatt, his grandfather helped people come off alcohol in Victoria for 55 years at the Alano Club. And having grown up in this family with Wyatt and seen Paul and Gordon go on their journeys, I certainly had a lot of motivation to try to, not pick up habits I don't need. But Wyatt, you've actually been helping people with their mind. And that's something that a lot of people talked about today. It's one thing, the physical addiction, the cravings, but then what do they do after? And could you tell us a little bit about what you've been helping people with their thoughts?
Well, it's a bit hard for me to talk about it right now because I've been sort of living in my own trauma for a little bit, and I haven't been capable of helping people very well. But I am driven to help people with the problems that I've seen in my own life and in my own family. And one thing I was going to say earlier is that it's kind of ridiculous that I'm still trying to figure this out at 38 years old. I think Mark said he started figuring it out at 37 years old. Yep. I mean, it's the journey continues, right? But why is it that we don't get this kind of information and this kind of help when we're 18, when we're younger? Like, I remember eating mushrooms when I was 15 or 16, and it absolutely changed my life. But that was not done in any kind of healing, healthy structure.
It wasn't a ceremonial context. It was
I don't know if I would go that far. It wasn't rooted in any tradition. It was a beautiful thing. And my friends and I opened our hearts to each other, and we shared a profound experience with each other, and all of us were changed by that. And it's hard for me to imagine what that could have been like if I had eaten mushrooms at 15 years old with the help of an elder or somebody who could have guided us to begin our relationship with spirit at that time, instead of just thinking of it as, we're going to have fun, we're going to see some things that we haven't seen before, and that's going to make a shift in our mind. We were all intelligent people, and we had the capacity to deeply dive into that experience. And it started us researching all kinds of philosophy and occult knowledge and things like that. But even now, at this point in my life, I'm barely starting to grasp on to any kind of community or tradition that can support that kind of thing. But to answer your question, Kyle, you asked me how I'm trying to help people, and I use hypnosis to help people have similar experiences that plant medicines and psychedelics can enable, but it's something that can be done in an hour instead of in an intense week or something. And And I'm not suggesting that an hour of hypnosis would help someone with a serious opiate addiction.
No,
That's-
but you
that's
know,
where something like
Ravine
Ebola comes
was
in.
a fella that used to come to town quite a bit,
Sure,
and you're
yeah.
talking about capabilities of the mind, and we know that the mind is an infinite being with infinite possibilities.
Well, one interesting thing about Ravine is that there's a lot of stage hypnosis hypnotists out there that do an entertaining show, but something that Ravine would do is he would try to change people's lives on stage. And I've heard stories from people who say they went to a Ravine show and something in their life changed forever, and they've never put down what it was that he gave to them.
I actually had the great honor to see the Great Ravine in Victoria, and I took my mother Gladys, who's another Michael from the Gladys Michael, and I went to the Great Ravine, and I was about 14, and I convinced my mother to go up on the stage because I was hoping she would get hypnotized by the Great Ravine, but he couldn't get her. She's a Michael, eh? She's too strong.
I believe her son
So
might
she
be
came
doing
back
the
down.
same thing now. I believe his son is doing the same thing. Yeah.
The lesser Ravine.
Yes, that's right.
So Wyatt, when you're talking about an hour of hypnosis to help people, is it a break in the egoic control of the mind that the plant spirit medicine creates, a window of opportunity for the mind to shift? Is that kind of what's happening with hypnosis, where you break people from the patterns of their thoughts?
Well, all of us, we have a consciousness that's very complex, and there's a lot of forces and a lot of intelligences working within there. It's like an ecosystem. And it's easy for us to go through life thinking that we are a person, we are a unified consciousness, but we're really not. We have our parents and our teachers from childhood in our heads, and they're pulling us all in different directions. And the normal way that we live our lives, we don't think about that. We think that we make the decisions, we think that we have desires and goals, and we go towards those things. But what's really happening is that that's just the tip of the iceberg, and there's all of this material below that we're blind to, or that we're ignoring, whether it's willfully ignoring or unknowingly ignoring. The subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is so powerful, it directs our life. And it's only a very rare and special moment that we get a glimpse of that, and we have a moment of understanding of how those forces in our life are driving us to do the things that we want to do. And so what hypnosis can do is it can take us down into that subconscious mind and have a conscious view of it. We can talk to these characters from our past. We can talk to our someone who's abandoned us. We can talk to someone who hurt us or abused us, and we can change that relationship deep down in our subconscious mind, so that we're no longer a slave to that trauma or to that experience. And I think that that's a similar way to how a plant spirit can do it.
Well, past this is the vibrational healing tool that I use for the same. So this is Shugnite and Shuganite from Russia. Shungite, thank you. And copper. So the two things that you're talking about, which is, well, it just gets a communication to those points. Your super subconscious and your body.
Well, the subconscious mind is the connecting link between the finite mind of man and infinite intelligence.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Can you say that again, please?
The subconscious mind is the connecting link between the finite mind of man and infinite intelligence.
I'm about to floss on all you with my glossolalia. Where do you think that comes from when people speak from the spirit?
Well,
and sometimes people will speak in a different language when they're inspired.
Well, inspire comes from the Latin word inspirato. Really, it does.
That's like respiration.
But as far as like how we create our own reality, we create our own reality through the subconscious mind, through our subconscious faculties. Now, the conscious mind is like the outer guard to the subconscious.
I'm sorry, Ryan, but we would just we've lost the room rental and the show's over.
Thank God.
Kid only gave us till 2:30. So
thank God.
The next
I don't
group, but we want to end the show, Ryan. We want to know, who is your favorite Michael? Because you just sat with 4 of the Michael clan. There's Gordon, Paul, Kyle, and Wyatt. Who's your favorite Michael?
They're all one. Throw one. Woo! That's a good way to end the show.
Beautiful.
Thanks a lot for being here, Mark Howard of ibogasoul.com. That's IBOG, and thanks for hosting, you guys. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, if
Okay.
anyone,
Thank you, everybody, all the Michaels family here. This is a Ron Unger High Noon podcast. Thanks to Jeremiah Armstrong over there, Kit Warren, and the whole group here today. Ryan Phillips, Mark Howard. The movie is called Dosed, and it's playing at the Victoria Film Festival right now. Check it out. This is Ken Hurricane Himes. This is Himes Hotshots 1620. Have a great awakening, everybody. Thank you.
thank you, Ken. Good night and good day, everybody. Follow at 1620 High Noon on all platforms. Signing off.